Hello everyone, this is Jason, and welcome back to an ADHD's Guide to Oritech. So, two things. First of all, the main one being I'm renaming this series and continuing it with different mods and modpacks to an ADHD's Guide to X. And second of all, I genuinely am enjoying making these, even though I hate my voice and how it transcribes over. So honestly, any likes, if this does help you, actually makes, it helps me and it makes me actually have motivation to do this. But today, and the main topic is nuclear reactors and Oritech. So, with Oritech, nuclear reactors are a mid to late game option. Unlike other mods, you cannot use them for Steam. That's a pig. So, in order to do that, you will need to... First of all, let's go over all the recipes. So, the main recipe will be the reactor walls. And it's simple, you just need some steel, you just need some reinforced plating. And I'll go over all the basics of Oritech in the next video of this series. But for now, let's get some of the parts. And the main three you'll need are, well, no, four. The main four you'll need is a fuel port, a reactor rod, the control panel, and the wall. There's a few different types of rods, and I'll get into what those do later. So, once you get those set up, you build it. It can be as large as you want, but for every reactor rod you have, you need to have a fuel port on top. And if you have any other types of blocks, it has to reach the top. So, if we do this, and once you right click this, it'll check for the structure, and if it's valid, it'll make it. So, the main it generates a lot of power, which you can export with an energy port. And all you do to put fuel in is you go to one of these, you drop in fuel, there's uranium and plutonium, and it'll generate heat, which will also generate power. So, here comes the issue. You need to put cooling in it. So while this technically does work, it will just straight up overheat. And just for the fun of it, I'll show you what happens when you blow it up. So, with Oritech, cooling is done in two different ways. There's active and then there's passive cooling. Passive cooled generators typically can't handle as much power, but they require a lot less maintenance. They mostly require fuel. Actively cooled ones can tolerate a lot larger setups and more power intense setups, but require you to input some kind of coolant. This was a 1x1 on the If you're curious, on the Discord, there's a lot bigger explosions for people making bigger reactors. So just do be careful. Anyways, well, we have some test subjects. So, let's introduce them to the nuclear reactor. Hi there, big guy. Hi there, villagers. Hi there, kitty. So, how you cool them is in a few different ways. The first one, as I said, is passive cooling. So for this, we'll make a 5x5. We'll slap you in the middle, and we'll do some heat vents, which require no form of coolant input, but have a weird formula I will get into once I finish up with most of the main tutorial. I'll get to the math later. So if you don't want to watch me build, if you don't want to watch the basics of reactors, you can skip forward to that, yada yada yada. Good stuff. Anyways. And as you can see, this is generating very little heat. And, you know, it's safe. Heck, even then, it could probably... Well, yeah, it will keep running. I know this is a bug. It will keep running if you break it and do that. But now, we have all the vents working. And, wow, it's making 256 RF attack. Wow! Alrighty, that is a passively cooled reactor. And for an actively cooled reactor, you will need heat absorbers and a coolant port. For this one, though, I will make it smaller just because I don't need to make it as large. Heat absorber, coolant port, boom, boom. Also, this entire series will be like this. I'm not editing the ADHD's guide. You get the pure experience. For the coolant ports, you need ice. And while the reactor is not active, it will not consume ice. So if it decides to, if you run out of fuel or you decide not to run it, you don't have to worry. And this is an active cooled one. This is cooling it down and it's going from there. Alrighty. Now that we have that all done, let's get into the technical blabber. And it will mostly revolve around the 4 items in my hotbar. Well, more like the 5, but that's getting into it. So, I do highly recommend you use Oritech's in-game wiki mod. But if you don't want to, that's fine. There is an actual wiki. Anyways. This is a heat absorber, and it will absorb heat on all 4 sides at a linear rate of 16 heat a tick, meaning if I did this, it would absorb 16 heat a tick from each of those, which is pretty nice. So now, these are the heat pipes, and as it says, it moves heat between the elements. And and these are probably going to be one of the most used blocks inside of your nuclear reactor. It very much just helps everything. It helps make you able to utilize different designs and move things around. And the pipes will always take the difference divided by the temperature difference between these and the neighboring component. Well, the hottest component. Well, no, it'll do all. Divide it by 4, and then you add 10. So if this is 10, and then the neighborings are, like, let's say 50, 80, because that's an more round number. It'll do 80 divided by 4, which is 20, plus 10, so 30. So it'll drain 30 from each. Okay. So, that is the basics of the heat pipes. I do recommend using them to spread around heat to coolant. And so that way you can utilize as much room as you can. They will not absorb heat on the diagonal, as they are technically not touching, and that's the easiest way to think about it. If it's not touching directly, then no, it's not going to work. So now I got the heat vents, which are probably one of my favorite ways to do it. These are passive coolers, and they have a much different formula. that makes them stronger when they're in the hottest parts, but weaker if they aren't. And that is simply, it will check for the hottest part around it. So let's say that this rod, we have these rods. If all of them were running at once, this quad rod is going to be drained from, and it will check its heat. It'll divide it by 100 and then add 4, and that is how much heat. Oh, pardon me. Per tick, it will take away. So so basically, use these in colder areas if you want to utilize more space, and use these in hotter areas so that way you can reduce the cost of amount of coolant you need. And some of these, by the way, this heat vent can solo cool a reactor rod, as you saw over there, and 2 of them could realistically do a double rod. But that's getting into technical, and that's not this part yet. That's not this part. So, the final thing you need to know about is, how do those fuel rods work? Well, let us look no further. As you see, we have a single, double, and triple fuel rod. Each of these rods consumes every tick 1 fuel per rod. So, because these are quad rods, this will take 4. Because that's 2, it'll take 2, and 1 will take 1. And this is getting into the technical stuff. This is kind of like the boring part. If you're done, thanks for watching. This is getting more into how to min-max your power. Anyways, they have something called a neutron pulse. And each time, it'll create the energy that's set in the configs, which this mod has a lot of, so feel free to look into it if you don't feel like it's balanced. And each time a rod receives a pulse, it will get... Each time a rod receives a pulse, it'll generate power. It is 1 times the amount of pulses, but it is also generating more heat each time, so this will generate 2, this will generate 4, this will generate 1. And, well, if you have a rod like this, all these will receive 2 pulses from their neighboring components, and it'll send 1 to them. So this will have 3, this will have 3, this will have 3, this will have 3. And it'll generate a lot more power than just, let's say, this. But as you know, it'll make it warmer. So. Okay, no, I did my math wrong. I'm sorry. So it is 1, 4, and 12. So, it's weird numbers, but again, Oracle will help you with this. And there's a heat. And so, what you want to do is you will try to be utilizing how many pulses you can make without overheating, and to try to maximize your fuel efficiency. Because each pulse does not consume extra fuel. So, the entire nuclear reactor is just a logistics puzzle of how can I make as many pulses as I can without overheating it. And, well, let's go over the last thing, and that is the neutron reflector. Wow, that gets off light. Okay, sorry. Anyways. And what this will do is, it acts as a reflector for any neutron pulses. So, for example, this will send out 4 external, and it'll have 12 internal pulses. But if I put it here, it'll send out 40 here, 40 here, 40 here, 40 here. Because this is a reflector, this will send it back to this. So now this has 16. So we could go 20, 24, and then for sanity value, we could do that, and then it would start draining out the heat, and yada yada yada, all that good stuff. And this would probably be this would be giving it the most pulses while being able to cool it. I'm not gonna go into the designs because that's your guys' job. You guys can have fun learning. And so, the amount of heat it'll generate, that we're going to the final part, is equal to is equal to the amount of pulses divided by 2, and then it'll be, so it is, hold on, pulses divided by 2 times pulses plus 4. Just because of how math works, you can visualize it as pulses. If you want a different visualization of that, that does the same thing. But basically, you're going to be dividing the pulses by 2, and then you're going to be multiplying it by the amount, and then adding 4. But that's basically the base. That is more or less the basics of all of it. And just because it would be really fun, let's blow up a big one. Let's blow up a big one. This is just a testing world, so. But yeah, and as always, please, if you did enjoy the video, leave a like. I'm not trying to make this a career. I'm doing this for fun and to help teach people. If you did find it useful, feel free to send it to whoever you know that might want to get into the mod, if this is their kind of vibe. And again, I'm sorry for everything and me just talking, blabbering, making all this long. But as I said, this is an ADHD's guide. I will be making a normal version of all these so that you don't have to worry. And if you want it quick, concise, and actually organized, and I'll probably edit that one or pre-prepare stuff. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you want to, you can stick around to watch me blow stuff up, though. Okay, this is handling a lot more oh, never mind.